17 minutes past 8. The Prime Minister will host the leaders of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland tomorrow to discuss Britain's exit from the EU.
And ahead of the meeting, the leader of Scottish Labour, Kezia Dugdale, set out what she believes will get the best deal for Scotland during the talks. And she joins us now from our Edinburgh studio. A very good morning to you, Kezia. Now, you're urging Nicola Sturgeon to negotiate on behalf of all the people of Scotland, not just those who support independence. Why don't you think she'll do that?
Well, I hope very much that she does, and throughout the summer the Scottish Labour Party has been supporting the First Minister's efforts to make sure that Scotland can get the very best set of circumstances following Brexit, and that for me is about having free access to the single market. Of course it is, but it's also about protecting Scotland's place in the United Kingdom. There are two mandates in Scotland: one, to get the very best from Europe, but secondly, to be part of that United Kingdom. 2 million Scots voted for that no less than 2 years ago, so it's not a choice between the UK and the EU. I think Scots want to be able to make the best of both of those unions.
And what are your issues? What do you want to happen? What do you expect to happen?
Well, the priority for everyone in Scotland is to protect jobs, opportunities for young people to travel, and to make the best of the economic circumstances that we're now faced with. So I would like to see Theresa May actively involving Nicola Sturgeon, Carwyn Jones, the First Minister in Northern Ireland, Sadiq Khan, all those voices that represent our diverse United Kingdom, to get the best deal for everyone across these islands. And that's got to be about maintaining our links with Europe, because we know that's good for trade. It's got to be about having the ability for workers to travel across Europe, and that's what Scots voted for when they voted overwhelmingly earlier this year to be as close to the European Union as we possibly can. But I have to remind the First Minister that what Scots also want is to be part of that United Kingdom, and she's got to make sure that when she goes into these conversations with the Prime Minister, she reflects the views of all Scots, not just those that back independence.
So you want the best of both worlds, really, and access to
We've heard that phrase before.
Access to the single market inevitably means a degree of freedom of movement. You can't just not accept that bit.
Absolutely, and I'm acutely comfortable with that, and I believe that the First Minister is as well. That's also the view of all the leaders of the political parties in Scotland. There's a very strong, unified, united position on that, and that's the voice that the First Minister will take into these meetings. But where the First Minister needs to be careful, though, however, is to suggest that everyone in Scotland supports the idea of a second independence referendum, and I'm afraid on that one we firmly disagree.
Some pretty harsh words from Paul Mason in the last week. His words, not mine. It's time you got real about Scotland, and actually it's time for you to go. What's your response to that?
I think Paul Mason needs to spend more time in Scotland listening to Scots and understanding the dynamic here. As I said to you just a moment ago, just 2 years ago we had an independence referendum in Scotland where the view of Scots was that they wanted to remain part of the United Kingdom, and I'm the leader of a Scottish Labour Party that represents what most Scots want: a close relationship with Europe and an even closer relationship within the United Kingdom, and that's what I'm going to carry on fighting for.
But they also, Kezia, want to remain part of the European Union. That's the key point.
Well, yes, indeed, but what we need to focus on now is how we can make the very best of the situation we're faced with because of Brexit. And as I've said to you earlier in this programme, I support the First Minister's efforts to ensure that we have free access to the single market, that workers can still travel across Europe. But equally, I want to maintain that relationship with the rest of the United Kingdom, and there's a democratic mandate for that in Scotland too. 2 million people in this country 2 years ago voted to remain part of the United Kingdom. That's what we were told would be respected. Nicola Sturgeon herself said the referendum was a once-in-a-generation, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, yet 2 years on she wants to try and reopen that debate. We're already divided enough in Scotland. I don't want us to be divided again, which is why my MSPs in the Scottish Parliament will vote against any attempt to have a second independence referendum.
OK, Kezia Dugdale, thank you very much indeed.